There we go. Okay. Recording. And I did like 20 degrees below normal. It's insane. Anyway, so you get to hear about me complain for the next 6, 7 weeks. I'll be a good boy. I'll try not to do it too much. Drives my wife crazy though. All right. So this is where we are. Are there any questions from strings that we did last week? Anything like anything come up? We do have to do it. I have to get back into catching up on the homework. This week and next week is arrays, and the reason I did 2 weeks is it just seems like past experience. We've needed to do that, and if we don't, that's fine. I just wanted to give us a little extra time in there. I can always put a little bit extra in there, but I'd rather give you extra time with that. It just seems like I've always had students who struggled with arrays sometimes. Some get it right away, and some are like, I don't, there's issues. So I like to make sure, just kind of make sure it's a comfort zone there, because it's important. And it's not just, again, it's not just this language that does it. Other languages all use some type of arrays to do it. And once you understand how to do that, I think it's important. So we'll do that for 2 weeks. So you really don't have anything due this week. You've got until the 25th for that. And you'll notice, so there's only a couple more assignments left really. So Unit 8, we got this 25th, and then we'll do Unit 9. Unit 10, I'm not asking you. In fact, I made some adjustments. I think it was after 9. Let me double check here. After 9. Yeah, 9 I think is the last one, because then I'm going to have you focus on your project. We are going to have a little mini exam, just like 10 questions, 10, 12 questions. So it's available now under learning units. Scroll down, final project application, do 1213. The folder. I showed you this before, but now you have access. Everybody's got access to it. I gave you some extra information. It's very typical from any software development perspective. I just always like to include that. I think it's a nice little graphic, kind of gives you an idea. So if you're going to go further on in programming, no matter what you're doing, this is kind of the process that you follow. Some of them I even mentioned. Some of them you kind of do a little bit quicker. Maybe go to the analyze, design, develop, and then you might be doing some test, develop, test, develop, test, develop. You might just be going back and forth, and you might even go jump back into design a little bit, depending on how it's going. Your design becomes more like an iterative process. So it just depends on who you're working with. Go on to the days where you go through this whole process, you fill it, and then ship it out, and then go back and do it. Usually, you're doing little increments. And we found over the years that by doing smaller changes and having people look at it and test and play with it, you get a much better and more refined product. And customers change their minds, clients change their minds, however you want to say it, all the time. And it's kind of nice because then you are giving them feedback pretty quickly and they can see what they're doing. And sometimes like, oh, I didn't know it was going to look like that. No, I want this instead or something like. So you can always make adjustments on the fly versus, well, I was working on that like 2 months ago and I'm doing something here, so then you run into some of those issues. And it all depends. Some bigger companies are not as flexible. It's usually a lot of the smaller companies. It's kind of an agile. And if you guys heard about the agile method of programming, it's kind of along those lines where you're just more flexible doing that. So I just kind of like that chart. I keep that in there. I'm gonna pull down this PDF. We're just talking about the project. There's all those details in here, but I'm gonna pull down the PDF because you can't get everything in the PDF on the screen to show up. So some things I gave you in here, but the rest of all the good details are in the PDF. Okay, so we'll take some time to just go over this right now. So it's this super exciting dog rescue application that I talked to you about. So you got the scenario where you're working for a nonprofit rescue and they need to keep track of information. I'm trying to keep it pretty basic. You're going to use a lot of the information, a lot of things that you've done, a lot of tools you've done, you've done classes. Oops, I didn't want to do that. And you're going to store data in multiple arrays, which we're going to learn how to do over the next couple of weeks. So you can start building this application right away. You've got all the tools, the skills to do that. It's just some of it you might not fully understand how to put it all together, but we'll do some of that too. And I'll give you time at the end of each class again to work on some of this if you want to, if you've got questions that come up, that kind of thing. So you have a rescue team input each dog along with the vet bill and dog food costs. And after each dog is entered, the staff can display the dogs, display average costs, or quit the application. And I give you a little sample menu. This is just an example. This is something I look at. It does not have to look exactly like this. It's just a simple prototype. You can be more creative. Like I said, you can do color. You can do use the J option pane. If you want to do the graphical interface, you can do that. I have no problems with that. And I have had some students who did that. You have a basic menu here, but I just did kind of the basic one just to show you that you don't have to get it too complicated. You enter a dog. So I select one and add a dog. I enter the name of the dog, the food cost. Notice I don't put any dollar signs or anything like that. I just put the actual data values in there. And then you want to add at least 3 dogs, get some data in the system. If you add more than that, great. And then when you get back to the menu, you should be able to then display the dogs. And so if I hit number 2, right there, display the dogs, it would get the dogs, and then it gives me the dogs on their names. Again, you can make it look however you want to. You can just say dog name and list all the dogs. However, it's easier for you to do that. Whatever you want to do is fine. Again, feel free to be creative. I have no problem with that. As long as you've got the concept down, that's all I'm asking. And then average costs. You want the average costs for what? For the food and the vet costs. Because those are kind of important things for a rescue. They need to know how much it's costing them to have these dogs. So they have, most dogs come in and they have vet costs and they have food costs, right? You got to take care of them. And you got to feed them. So we're just trying to get an idea. And again, I'm not asking you to enter transactions, anything like that. You can just put in the average food cost. In this case, it's $50, and this one was $75, and spits it out. So again, when you add the dogs, it did that. So it's getting the information. If you go up, the food cost up here was 50 and 75. If you enter more, and obviously if you do 3 dogs and you make each one $50 for the cost, when you do the average, it's going to be $50. So at least you know that your math is working, right? So check your math, things like that. Come back down. So it gets your average. Finally, you quit the application. You got to give the user a way to get out, right? So in this case, I did 4 to quit. You can do 999 quit. You can use letters. You can do whatever you want. Again, the idea is just to kind of get the information. So it's worth 140 points. And I'm giving you pointers in here about what you're going to need to do, the files you create, how you're going to set things up, the arrays that you're going to do. You have the getters and setters. So a lot of stuff that we've already done. So again, like you've done a lot of stuff already. The arrays you haven't done yet, but we will do those. And then keeping track of, you're going to create some methods to display the dogs, display average costs. And then your getters and setters. Set the dog, set that. You're going to do those steps. You can set information. Okay. And then here's the rubric on how you're graded. Kind of I label everything out here. Obviously, if the application needs to run, that's a key point too. But I mean, you could still have stuff in there. So if you get stuck and you run out of time, whatever the case may be, make sure you turn in something. I can't grade nothing, right? And I have students who'll do that. They'll tell me like literally after the fact, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I had it. I only got a couple things in there, or half of it done, and I just couldn't get it to work." But they didn't give me anything, so I had to give them a 0. I don't want to do that, because if you don't give me anything, there's nothing for me to grade. So again, if for whatever reason you get to a point and you get stuck, and no matter what, even if you do ask for help and I help you, but you still can't finish it, I get it. Stuff happens. Turn in what you have. Just turn in something so at least I can give you some type of grade. I mean, it's a big chunk of points. So then the last thing is you go through all the points, and the last thing is for an extra 10 points, you display an error. Okay. We're talking about the final project. We're displaying error if the dog name is not entered. So if you don't enter, if the user does not enter a dog name, because if I go back up to the top, and again, you can look at all this later too. So if I do 1, when I enter the name of the dog up here, if I don't enter anything, that's kind of important. You want to display an error and say, "Hey, Mr. Potato Head, you got to display an error. You need a dog." Put something in there, please, right? And you can put one for each of these. You can make you can make them all. I don't know. I mean, because you go on, you guys order stuff. You guys go online when you're on sites. If you don't put information in certain fields, it kind of gives you an error, right? It gives you a message. It says you cannot continue. If I try to order something and I don't put a credit card in it, I can't continue. It says, what do you want me to do? So I'm giving you extra credit if you do that. You don't have to do it, but if you do, I give you 10 extra points for that. And there's a number of ways you can do it. However you decide to do it is fine. And if you decide not to do it, that's okay too, because that's extra credit. But I figure it's a nice little challenge in there. Okay. So I recommend don't go off of just what's in Blackboard, because you see it's kind of incomplete. I don't have all the screenshots in there. It's missing some stuff. I didn't put everything in there. I just kind of give you a taste of it. It's got most of it. But please do download the PDF from there. Okay. So I did make some adjustments. So learning units, I think the last one, this will be the last big one. So we've got 2 weeks on arrays, which we're starting tonight. We'll do the UDOITs together like we always do. And then we do have an assignment. We've got some displaying integers using arrays. So there's a bunch of different nice assignments using arrays. That I believe. Let me go to the next unit. So then unit 9 is exception handling. We have a UDOIT, but you can't see this anyway. But that's it. So in class, what we'll do is we'll just do the UDOITs together. There are no more assignments after this week, after arrays. All you have is the UDOITs that we can do in class. So if you do them in class, you're done, and then you just have the project to worry about. Okay. Because let me go on. That's unit 9. It's hard to believe we're just then we're gonna hit Thanksgiving, and then it's crazy. The semester's flying by. So here's 10. Again, yeah, you can't see these again. So the UDOITs again, we'll do the UDOITs together. And that's it. So that gives you hopefully more time to then work on the project. Okay. So this will be the last official homework assignment after that, beyond that. So unit 8. And again, we're doing this for 2 weeks. And we'll go through, and if we have enough time, we can go through the assignments together too in class, but I'll still give you time at the end of the class, each class, to start working on the project. All right? So we don't have a lot. So, I mean, it's going to go fast because we got, what, 3 more weeks and then we hit Thanksgiving, right? And then we're all going to be full for about another week, and then all of a sudden we have an exam. It's kind of bad. You come back from Thanksgiving, you have 1 week, and then we've got and then, so for the final exam and final project, just like before the final exam, just like I mentioned, it will be online. Okay, similar. Like I said, 10 to 15 questions at the most. All right, I'm trying to keep it maybe 10 to 12 questions at the most. Just kind of a sampling of some of the things that we've talked about. That's it. But I want you to focus on the project, and then the project you do on your own. So you do not have to come to class just like for the midterm, okay? For that last class day. I will be here. So if you still want to come in and you still have stuff you're trying to figure out, resolve, I will be here. But you are not required to. If you get all your stuff done, sweet. You're done. Okay. Do it in small pieces. So right away you can see, and I just, I'm not going to tell you. I mean, you can kind of figure this out yourself. So like right away, you come into this, I create this menu. Again, you don't have to do it like I did it, but let's say you were going to do something similar. You could do this, and if you're a display menu, how is this even being output, right? What commands is it using? Just print statements, right? Just doing print statements. Now, if you have a chunk of something that's going to be used over and over again, you're going to probably put it in what? A method, exactly. So right away, you can say, oh, I've got a menu here. I'm going to keep calling this menu. So I'll create a method called display menu or something like that, right? and I'll call it, and then there I've got my code. So anytime I need this menu to come up, boom, I just call that method, right? Which just displays stuff. Similar to at the beginning, I think one of the methods we created was like the first one was display info or something like that. Something very, one line. So that's the idea. So just kind of break it down. Then boom, that's done, right? Then you got to get it. Do you remember how to get the data from the user? So you either get it through JOption, through the input dialog, or through scanner, right? You get it from that way. So however you want to do it, you do it that way. And right away, you know, okay, I can do that. It's print versus print line. You know, if it's print, it stays on that same line. If it's print line, it goes to the next line. You know, and if you do that stuff, I'm not gonna get you for that stuff. To me, that's not a big deal. That's aesthetics. That doesn't really bother me. So again, you can see so the menu shows up. So I think you get the idea. So as we move along, if you got questions, if you start working through it, it might be, if you run into problems, just let me know. We'll figure it out. And like I said, we'll talk about arrays today, so that'll help you hopefully. Okay, are we good? And I like it. I like to do it this way because then it gives you a little bit head start, because then some of you I know, or quite a few of you, do have other classes too. Then hopefully you can get a head start on some of this other stuff, and not be so stressed out. Because I don't want you stressed out, man. That's no fun. All right. So for this week, arrays, and next week, arrays, again, depending on what we do. We're going to talk about arrays, and we're going to get into the Udoits. Now, there's only 3 Udoits, but I'm going to kind of take my time and, again, going through them and making sure you really understand what arrays are. All right. So, unfortunately, we are going to do a little bit of PowerPoints. I'm sorry. And my system is, I'm downloading Visual Studio 2019, so it's kind of going slow. So if my system hiccups, that's why. Hopefully it behaves. Okay. So we're going to be talking about declaring arrays, initializing arrays, everything you need to do with an array is how to use it. What is it? Searching arrays and then passing arrays between methods. That's nice too. I can create an array and have all this information in it, and I can pass it to different methods to do different things. So that's kind of handy too. So an array is just a list of data elements. Is really what it is. I like to think of an array as just a, I know if it's politically correct to say it, is like a variable on steroids. Is really what it is. If I want to store, and the book kind of gives you an example if you want to have information. So if I had a database with information and I wanted to keep track, so like us in the class, all students. Normally, if I only have one, I would just say student, like student name, right? I'd say student last name, student first name, right? Well, what if I have more? Then I'd have to say student last name 1, student last name 2, student last name 3. So you get the idea. I need different variables because I need to hold that individual information that way. I can't just do, otherwise it'll just keep overwriting, right? Even if you do full name, I need to do full name 1, full name 2, full name 3, and I could store all of our names. I'd have, in this case, I'd have how many? 3, 6 of you, right? I'd have 6 variables every single time. That's not practical though, is it? Because think about it. I mean, that means I already know ahead of time how much data I have, which may or not be the truth going forward. I may encounter 3 students, which would be okay, but what if I encounter 20 students, 50 students, right? Well, then you're like, well, why don't you just create 50 variables? Well, I could do that, but that becomes very inefficient because then you're creating all these variables and they're not, maybe you have, again, 7 of us, and I've got, 43 variables that are not being used. I'm declaring them, but they're not being used. So the idea behind arrays kind of eliminates that issue. You don't have to worry about it, and you're still using memory the same way. And the thing with arrays is when you declare the arrays, all the data items have to have the same type. So that's one thing you got to remember that. There are ways around some of that, which we'll talk about. But in a nutshell, when you create an array, if I create an integer, I create an integer array or a string array, okay, based on the data type. So in this case, it shows you here, I am creating a double array. And there's several different ways that you can create an array. And this shows you kind of how you can declare it. I can use the data type in front, empty, and then 2 left and right bracket, and then whatever the name is that I want to call it. And that's one way I can do it. That's all you have to do. And now that declared the array. Now this is an empty array, sales figures. I can then do something with that. Okay. This is int bracket. That's an integer array of ID nums. So now ID nums is that type of array. And I can use that as an array. It's no different than when thinking about the classes. We created classes stuff and we created an instance of that class. So we didn't use the class itself. We would create an instance of that new object. I have one in my code here, right? Let's see really quick. I don't know if I have one right here. Not. Repair name. Did we do that stuff? We create a new instance. I don't have it right here, but anyway. No, that's okay. I have it in some code. We create a new instance of it. Same thing. Array is basically the constructor is it's creating that new array object for you to use. You need to reserve the memory space. So what you can do is, they talk about it, is I can automatically set it up and I can say this is going to have 20 values in it, which goes back to what we were saying before. So if I want to keep track of students in a class, and I say, well, I'm never going to have more than, for us, for example, we never have more than 18 typically. And that's because of the number of seats. We just physically can't have more than 18. Or some classes are like 20. Just depends on the situation. So let's just say 20, for example. And this happens to be what they set it up here. So I could create an array called sale is equal, it's a new, and it's a data type of double, and it's going to have 20 elements. Call them elements. Or I can say double, empty paren, empty brackets, type sale equals new double. Is one way by the other. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Some people, like everything, like you're probably learning with programming, depending on what you're doing, you all get your own style of how you like to do it. Some people like to be really explicit and they like to do the second one. Some people like to be really quick and short. They're like, why am I typing more than I need to? And I'm just going to do the top line. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. They both mean the same thing. The only issue comes in is like when you're working in a company or place and they do it a certain way, typically they have guidelines. So most places when you go as a programmer to a place, typically, I shouldn't say most places, but some places do. Smaller places typically don't. They just don't have time to write up all this stuff. The bigger companies, places have a lot of guidelines of programmers, how they want you to call stuff, how they want you to name stuff, the syntax you should use, all this stuff, how you should do comments, how you should structure your program. Should you do 3 spaces or 4 spaces in tabbing? I mean, all this crazy stuff. Some of them are like, you know what, if your code works and I can read it, I don't care how you do it. They don't. They're really cool about it, which also can lead to all kinds of wacky code. It can be interesting. I mentioned before, I worked at a place and everybody worked on one platform, but one programmer used a different platform. So everybody was using stuff in Visual Basic, and that was the language we were using. But they had one developer who used Visual C++, and they let him do everything in that because that's what he liked. And then when he quit, we had to figure out how to support that. And I was one of the people who knew how to do that, but we quickly rewrote it into Visual Basic. So what? So everybody else could then help support it. Otherwise, it was just me. And so if I wanted to go on vacation or something like that, it was a problem. You learn that quickly. I will just say this as a caveat: being one of the few people that know something isn't necessarily a job security. It can be a real pain because they don't want you to do anything. You're leaving. Where are you going? You can't go. And even if you did go on vacation, you have a phone number. I need to be able to get a hold of you. Or where can I reach you? Because they freak out because you're the only one who knows this stuff, right? So that's not necessarily a good thing. I'm just saying, just food for thought. Because a lot of people I know are like, oh no, it's fine. If people don't know it, then they can't fire me. Well, that's not true either, because that's happened. You know what they do? If you are doing a terrible job, and even though you're like maybe one or two people who know this, they just hire consultants. They pay a lot of money for it, but they'll hire a consultant to come in and help them. And I've been at places where they've done that. So everyone is replaceable. Everyone's replaceable. Okay. So in here, this bracket, this 20, is what's called a subscript. And that's what this is referring to. You put that in the brackets, and that's how you get access to the element that you're in. It's called a subscript. And we'll learn about whether or not if you've got 20 elements in an array and I'm trying to access maybe element 21 or 30, the computer's not going to like that, and it's going to choke, and it's going to give you something called an out of bounds error, and you'll see that. All elements, everything's zero based. So if you've got 20 elements, as they're showing in this one, it's going to go from 0 to 19. If you've got 3 elements, there was a joke I was pulling up where a programmer walks in a bar and he tells the bartender, "I want 3 beers," and he holds up 2 fingers, right? 0, 1, 2, right? Yeah. Only geeks know that stuff, right? But that's it. So it's zero based, right? That's just the way it is. So you always think that. You always have to think of that. So you have to worry too when you go through an array and you look at stuff. You got to remember that when you're counting, what your count is versus what the actual array element is. Because obviously a lot of programmers, they again get the out of bounds error because they're like, oh, I have 20 elements, and they try to access element 20 or whatever, and not realizing it's really like n minus 1, right? N is your max minus 1 because it's zero based. So things like that, and we'll play with some of that stuff. And then again, to assign a value, just like it shows here, it's just like a variable. That's why I call it a variable on steroids. Same thing. Sale, index, the element is 0, and I'm going to assign a value, just like you would a normal variable. That's it. It's as simple as that. And nothing too complicated. At least, hopefully. Hopefully it's not complicated. You can hear me jibber jabber all night. Well, let me look at a couple more things I just want to show you, and then we'll do that, and then we'll jump into the you do it. They just show you, actually, there's not really much to show you. They show you here. So sales figures is the actual array name, and they show you here's 0, here's 1, here's 2. They're just giving you an example and showing you where the memory is. So it's actually creating that. So again, and with an array, you can create a 20 element, 50 element array, whatever the case may be. You can get them really big. You got to be careful. Again, it's just dictated by your machine. You don't have to use all that space. It's okay. So if you create a 10 element array, you're doing scores or something like that, and you only use 2, 3, 4 of the elements. That's okay. That's not a problem. You'd rather have you'd rather have too many memory locations available than too little, right? Too many than too little. All right, let's do this. We got some other stuff here, but let's do this. Let's do the demo array. Let's see if we can write some code. So let me do a new Java project. Let me grab my chair here in a second and walk through this. As I said, I'd much rather code. Okay, and we'll play with this. We can manipulate this. So we're going to do this demo array. So just like we do everything else, it's public class. This is just demo array. Like so, open curly and close curly. And we are going to have a main method. So public static void main string and then args, like so. And again, same thing. Oops. Open curly, close curly. Okay. And then I'm going to save it. And I'm just going to overwrite my stuff because I already have it. That's fine. I think I've overwritten it like 8 million times. All right. So nothing new here. This is all stuff that we've done many, many times. You can probably have dreams about this. Very exciting. All right. So now we want to create an array. So the book has this create an array. So they actually use the longer way of doing it. They say double, and then you do left and right brackets. So not the curly braces, not the parentheses, but it's the actual hard square brackets, right? Right, just by the letter to the right of the letter P. So double, and now I'm just telling you I'm creating an empty array, and it's going to be called salaries is equal to new double, and how big is this going to be? 4. So the elements we have are what? 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, 4 elements. Again, 0 based. I'm going to save that. So what we're going to do in this one, very exciting, is we're going to now call the array, and then we're going to assign values to each element. So in this case, we're going to do element 0, and we're going to assign a value. They want what, 1225, and it doesn't have to be exact what the book is. It doesn't matter. And I'm lazy, so I'm just going to take the first line and I'm going to paste it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So make sure you change the index, the subscript. Subscript or index, same thing, interchangeable. I tend to say index more than subscript. And then just change your other values to something, just anything. It doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't have to be the same thing. I'm just kind of following the book like so and save it like that. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to build this just to make sure that I didn't do something goofy. Yay, it built. Sweet. And then we're going to run it. And it's going to be super exciting. And it's not going to show us anything, right? Because we don't display anything, right? We're building an array. We create an array in memory, and then we assign values into it, but we're not doing anything. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to spit out the information. See what it is. Now the book has. I guess we're going to do it this way. We'll do it this way. First way we'll do it with the book, and then we're going to make a change. We'll make a couple of changes. So we're going to play with this a little bit. So we're going to just do system.out.println, and we're going to say salaries are quotes. And we'll say system.out.println. And then you can just, oh, not quotes, sorry. Just the actual value. Salaries. And the actual, just put in the actual. Again, I'm going to take that. I'm going to paste it 3 times. Oops. Ugh. So rude. Just do Shift Tab. Shift Tab, Shift Tab. Okay. So we'll have 0, we'll have 1, you'll have 2, and you'll have 3. Now, you're probably right away, hopefully, you're seeing, okay, I'm printing the same exact thing out 4 times, which we're going to do. We're going to run this anyway. Is there something that you remember doing that we could probably do instead of doing it this way? You're repeating the same information over and over again that you want to output. We could probably do what? Use a loop, right? And since we know how many elements there are, probably a good one to use would be what? A for loop. That's okay. We'll just do this for right now. And we'll come back and we can tweak it. And then I'm going to run it. And then there it goes. Did it come out right? Yeah, 1225. Always make sure that what comes out is what you expect. 1325 is okay. I've had occasions where I would forget to change the subscript of the index to the right one or something like that, or it's the wrong index, and I'd get the data. I'd get data, but it would be the wrong data. So you always want to make sure you're getting, again, like I said, like a lawyer. A lawyer knows what they're going to ask already, the answers. As a programmer, you should hopefully know what you should expect when you do this. So this is your demo array. So this is actually this. So this is the one assignment. You can save that. But what they want to do is, I want to do one more thing. Let's do this. And you can comment it out. So what we can do is we can do this. I'm gonna copy the last one. It's all right. And I'm gonna do, I don't know, it doesn't have to be 4. I can do this. I can say, yeah, I'll say 4, right? Hey, there's 4. It's 4 values, right? 4 should be fine, right? Let's build it. I built it, and it builds fine, right? So programmatically, it's fine. It says, oh yeah, you're fine. Everything's cool. Then you run it, and it barfs on you, right? Blech. I get an array index out of bounds exception. It tells me what line 17. I go to line 17. I'm like, whoa, hey, dude, what's wrong? 4, what's wrong? There's 4 elements. Oh, no. Okay, right. So you can do one of 2 things. You either you comment out that line or eliminate that line, Or you can go and you can change the size of your array. So let's do this. Let's just change the size of the array to 5. Again, and you can turn this in when you submit it. That's fine. You can submit all these changes. I don't care, because I know what you did. So now we're going to do this. Now 4 has no value in it, right? There's nothing in there. Well, let's just see what's going to come out. We're going to build it. It built fine again, which it should. And now we're going to run it. Notice what it did. It gave me the first 4 values, and then I asked for another value, but because there's nothing in there, it gave me 0.0, and it gave me 0.0 because the data type is a double for those values. So that's why it gave me 0.0. So thus I'm saying is you do not have to populate every single element in the array in order to get what you want. You can just do a bunch of them. Again, arrays are very handy for doing all kinds of things, but that's one thing to do. You do it, but I don't care. We're going rogue. Yeah. All right, so I have to say that. I'm going to say that. Okay. So let's do this. First of all, this is not in the code. So I want to take this, and I just want to I want to change that out to a for statement. All right. We're just going to do it really simple. So let's just do a for statement. I'm going to say int I is equal to 0. And then the second one is, well, I is what? Is less than 4. So it only goes up 0 to 3, but we want it to go this, so we want to pick less than 5 maybe. Or you could say is less than or equal to. What if you say less than or equal to 4, right? So it hits 4. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then finally I plus plus. It's just going to increment. I'm going to do open curly, close curly. All right. This is what I love about loops. We're going to take one line of this and copy it, and we're going to paste it into the for loop. And then all you do is change that 0, which is hard coded, to I, which is your subscript, your index right there, right? So those match up. You can comment these out 2 ways. You can do /*, go to the bottom, */, and those are commented out. And we're going to see if this works. So I took this whole chunk of code here. So 5 lines of code, I replaced it with really 2. I don't count the curlies as lines of code. So really 2 lines of code. Let's see if that did anything. Compile. We built it. If you build it, they will come. Let's run it. It's priority. Priority. Same thing. So then right away you're like, yeah. But again, there's nothing wrong with doing this when you're starting off and just playing with things just to get data out of the system to make sure it's working. But and this is what I do. I'll write the code. I'll make sure it works. Then I go back and I tweak, make it more efficient. Okay, yeah, we do not want all these lines of code in here that do the same exact thing. We're working with an array. That's the whole idea behind an array. I can literally just come down here and do this. And this is a very common. This happens all the time. This is what arrays are about. I mean, to do this stuff. I can just spit out this information, get access to it, and you're using it. You'll use a for loop for arrays to get the information, to process the information, not just print it out. All kinds of things, get access to it, and not just say what's called. This is like a single element array. You have multiple large arrays, your matrix. I mean, it can get very complex. So anyway, so we've got that. Got that going for us. Yay. All right, so if I go back to the PowerPoints, which I know you love, some of this I've been talking about. It's a variable with a reference type. It holds an array, holds a memory address. It's a place of memory. When you declare an array, no computer memory is assigned. The array has a special null value. Remember null values? We're talking about that. So it's got a null value. So when you do the new, the array name acquires actual memory address value. So this is just kind of the behind the scenes of what's going on, just so you're aware. Is some of this gets really more into computer science, the basics of memory and how you're doing the allocating. Earlier in the days with computer science, if you would have gotten into some of them with like C programming and some of those, you had to really manage your memory. You would create memory. Then you could do stuff. You wouldn't just do some of the stuff that we're doing. We're very it's just spoiled in some ways with some of it, and I love it. Believe me, I'm happy with it. because way back in my day, we'd rub two sticks together to get the thing to code, right? No, it wasn't that bad, but it was just it's nice that a lot of this stuff what JGrasp and what Visual Studio and all those IDEs will do for you is they do it automatically for you, so you don't have to worry about some of this stuff, which is really nice. But you should still know about it. So it's just showing you that it creates these when you create an array, things that it's doing for you. So I'm just highlighting that. All right. So another way you can do this, and this is another you do it, and we're just going to build off this one. So I think that's one of you who do it. So let me see. Maybe we'll get through this faster than I thought. So demo array 2 is the other one. So what we're going to do is we're going to save. Let's go back to this. So I got too much stuff open here. And I'm going to leave my for loop in there. If you didn't put it in there, don't worry about it. That's fine. I've got it in there. So I'm going to do we're going to change this to demo array 2. And I'm going to overwrite my 2. I'm going to say 2. I'm going to say file, save as, demo array 2. And again, mine's going to overwrite. You probably don't have one. Okay. And the idea behind this is we're going to show you another way of creating variables in an array, the values rather. So what you're going to do is we declared, I've got this array here, this thing called double salaries. And instead of doing all this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment this out. Again, because I want just to keep it there so you can see what's going on. I'm going to say double, just like before, brackets. Again, I got to give it a name. But now what I'm going to do right off the bat, boom, I'm just going to use my curly brace, and I'm just going to throw the values in there. So I can take the values, all this stuff, and I can just take all that and I can put it right there. So 12.25, 13.25, 14.25, and then 16.85, like so. Close your curly brace, and then don't forget the semicolon. And now I've just created the array. And again, for this part, guess what? I can comment this out. / like so. So now I've got a lot of things commented out, so it's getting kind of messy. But that's all right. Again, what I like to do, and this is going to just be your own thing, and again, sometimes it depends. I worked for a company where you had to keep 2 revisions worth of code in there commented out before they'd let you pull it out. Because they just felt that statistically speaking, there was a good chance you might have to go back in and either look at what had just happened or maybe undo what you just did to redo it. So it was easier just to leave it in there. Some programmers don't do that. Some programmers will just yank it out of there and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go back to source control if I need it, and I'll get it from there and I'll put it back. It's just up to you. I'm kind of it doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't slow you down. It's in there, and right away you can see what was going on. What I do recommend sometimes, again, is you put your initials in there and say why you come into. I don't like this anymore. I don't know, whatever, and then put a date, something like that if you're gonna do it. Normally you would put a real reason, not that you just don't like it. So again, what it's gonna do again, and I keep saying it's gonna help you, because down the road you can search for your initials, and you can find out why it's gone, where it's gone, what happened, why did I do that? Okay, I commented 6 months ago. What the heck was I thinking? Why did I do that? Was I drinking too much Mountain Dew? I don't know. Too much Jolt? I don't know. What happened? All right. So everything else is the same. So we just recreated the way we initialized the array. I did that, and I left everything else the same. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to bring this up. Let's compile. And it did. Demo array 2 compiled. Let's run it. And I have an error. Oh, right. I've got the error again. I got the original error. Because guess what? Because in the original, I changed this to 5. Remember that? And so it was okay with it. But now because I pre-populated this thing, I've got nothing. So now I have to either put a value here, a 0.0, or I have to change my for loop again. And this time I'm going to change my for loop, and I'm going to say less than 4 instead of less than or equal to 4. Does everybody understand that? I just don't want to gloss over it. So when we did it originally, we created the array, and the array was set up with 4 elements. I added this extra line down here, and then it gave us the error, array out of bounds error. And I said, okay, we can either not call this line, or we can change the array to make it bigger. And so I changed this from 4 to 5. Everything was hunky-dory. It worked. Now we change this, and I actually put values in here. And then we have the problem again like before. So I can either do this, do another value 0.0 there, which I decided not to do. I'm going to leave this array the way it is, and I can come back down to the for loop, and instead of saying less than or equal to 4, so it won't do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is 5 elements. It'll just do 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Because it's got to be less than 4. So I do less than 4. I know, something so simple. And then it builds, and then it should run. Hopefully it runs. There you go. And I got my 4 again. Pre-populates it all, just like that. So those are 2 ways you can do it on the fly. So if you know the values right off the bat, it's easy. Why would you do it this way? It just depends. If it's something that really doesn't change, then you do that. You might have a variety of reasons. Sometimes typically what you're going to do is you're going to read data from a file or a database, maybe a text file or database, and you'll create your array that way. If you're dealing with states, I mean, I've been around a while and we still have 50 states, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So you could probably create an array, a hard-coded array of 50 for states. You'd probably be okay. Most programs do that. In fact, that's probably an easy array to create, right? You just do all the abbreviations and the state name. So something to think about. So kind of basic stuff there. That's creating that array there. So that's what they're talking about there. So I created this array. This was an integer array. I initialize it. Boom, there it is. You're all set. But again, because I changed that, I ran into the other issue. So, you make one change in one spot to make things better or different, and then all of a sudden you create other problems elsewhere, and you got to figure out, okay, what do I want to fix or create? So, the whole thing is, oh, it's a simple, quick fix. Doesn't always happen that way. It doesn't always happen that way. So you just got to be careful about that. So I'll tell you what. Why don't we record this? All right. So as we left it, right? Playing with that. So you got to make a decision what you're going to do about again, like I said, normally you don't really hard code some of these array values like this. Typically, you will just get them from a database or a file or something like that where you know the values. You're not really going to do it this way. Again, this is just for example purposes of what we did. So, all right. So and they call it populating an array. You're populating it, which again, filling the array, whatever you want to call it, is fine. And we've done some of this already, right? Use a loop to perform array operations. We did that. We're way ahead of it. We don't mess around, right? So we're using a loop, in this case a for loop, to do it. You can use any loop you want. Again, I'm accessing it by using the I as the index or subscript there in that I, in that for loop. And that's all they're talking about right there. He's using it that way. The power of arrays. Okay. You can use constants. You can do other things too if you want. Again, the nice thing about it is the book kind of talks about using variables. Do that. Let's see. In the book, you can talk about what I was talking about. Say, suppose you want to do something where you are able to store up to 10 scores for students, like a quiz or something like that. And you can allow up to 10 values, but you might only use part of that. You may not use all of it. So again, like I said, I was playing with it. If I go back to this one, so you can't do it that way. I'd have to go back to the other way. Now you could pre-fill it, like I said, with this one. I could do 0.0, like a 0.0 if I want to. That's fine. But just because you create an array of a certain size, again, does not mean you have to use the whole size. And they're just letting you know. They're letting you know it that way. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, fields. So the way you can get the size of the array, which can be very important by using the method of length. Length is a property. Actually, I shouldn't say it's a method, it's a property. It cannot be used as an array method. But I use length for that, and I can find out how long the array is. So here they use the scoreArray.length in the for loop, so I could have done the same thing. So I could change my code. I could change this I. What's my array name? Salaries. So I can say I is less than salaries.length. Like that. I believe I need the, no, I don't, just that. So that I can just use that, which is really kind of handy, again, because that could change. The less you hard code in anything, the better off you are. Anytime you can get rid of anything, any values, anything that's hard coded, better off. So again, I can build this. I can run this, and there you go. Works the same way. It's nice. So whatever I define the length to be, that's what's going to use in this case. If I want to add more values, I can go more. Again, because I set this up with 4 values, that's all I'm going to have there. So, yeah, it's very handy. Makes sense? Exciting, I know. You've always want to know this about arrays. Everything you want to know, but afraid to ask, right? Excuse me. I have a tickle. All right. A couple more things. Let's go through some of this, actually. Check. Okay. If you've seen many of these are these enhanced loops. I don't know how often you've ever seen those. You go through the array without specifying its beginning or an endpoint control variable. So in this case, it's for int and val and then colon and then the array, and it just prints out the values. Kind of a different way of doing it. I don't typically do that too often, but you can. It's just another, again, like I like to say all the time, it's another tool in your toolbox of things that you can do. Other things too, I'm gonna just do this while we're doing it. Again, I can change values at any time, just like I showed you before. So I've got values here. So this first one is 12.25. So I can still, here I can say salaries 0 is equal to 3. I can just say that, or say 3.0 because it's a double. It doesn't matter. I'll just say 3, right? So I overwrote that. So even there it's declared 12.25 up there. Now I make it 3. I reset the value. I run it. Still works fine. It says now it took the initialized 12.25, but then it came down here and it says, oh, now you're going to make it 3, and it took that. So I can make those changes anywhere I want, and then it doesn't affect anything. So you can do that. Again, that's the handy thing about arrays, is I can store values all along, and as we're going to get into furthermore, you can pass data along, pass values along, that type of thing. It's really kind of handy, especially when you get into methods. So as you build up data and get all this data, you can do all that. It's kind of nice. It's very nice. This is very nice. So you can put 10 values in that array, but again, it doesn't matter. So if you only enter X number, so again, there's nothing wrong with that. So I guess think about it in terms of the rescue app, right? So you could use something like this if you create an array, and actually you're going to have multiple arrays where you set up. And I'm asking you to at least store 3 values. The values, can you think of it as a set? the names of 3 dogs, their associated vet cost, and their associated food cost, right? So you're going to need an array of at least 3. And here, close that. Let me open it up. I'm not going to tell you how to do this, but I'm going to show you some stuff that may have. So dog, right? Food cost. Heck, just do like that. And then vet cost, right? So those are our 3 elements that we're working with for the project. I mean, right away, you probably know, well, what kind of data type is dog? String, right? String. And then these should be easy because we've been using these this whole time. Double, right? Double, double, right? It's currency. Anytime you think of currency, just think of a double. That's the easiest thing to think. Anytime you're dealing with money, things like that, think of that. So you've got those. We're going to keep it simple, and I'm going to ask you to create arrays, and that's what I'm showing you. I'm going to go back to let me go back to the thing here. I'm going to show you part of the instructions, because when we go through some of the stuff, you may be like, what are you talking about? So here we go. See this? There's part of the instructions. We need to use 3 parallel arrays. And probably when I was reading that earlier, like, what the heck is he talking about? What the heck is a parallel array? All it means is you're creating an array, you're creating 3 different arrays that the element 0 in the one array corresponds to element 0 in the second array and element 0 in the third array. Now, there are more sophisticated programming techniques that you can use to do it all in one object. We're just not doing that for this. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. There are ways to do it a lot easier, but this will also be easy. So you would create an array, and I call it array 1, but you're probably going to want to call it something else. So obviously it's dog, so you might call it like array dog, right? And then for array 2, you're not going to call it array 2. You'd probably call it, I don't know, array vet cost, and then array food cost. Are you getting hopefully you're understanding what I'm getting at. And then each one is different. So dog is a string, so you know that data type. And then food cost and vet cost are both doubles, so then you know those types. So right now you should know how to create these 3 arrays just based on what we just did during the first part of the class. So that's all that's going on there, okay? Hopefully it doesn't freak you out too much. And like I said, work on it in bits and pieces, small bits and pieces, get it set up. So we talked about the menu already, potentially how to get that menu set up. You can use what we said, you can use a method probably to spit out this information, right? And then you have other stuff. Use comments when possible. Wherever you need, use comments. It'll help you, it helps me. It's good, okay? So that's kind of the kind of way. So that's why I want you to focus on the arrays. And you're going to use the arrays. You need the arrays because it's going to help you with the food cost and the average cost to just kind of. Now there's a number of ways you can do that, but one way I want you to do is using the arrays to calculate the average cost for food and for the vet. Okay, so the average vet cost is this, the average food cost is this, things like that. So hopefully this is all helping. That's the reason why I'm focusing it so much on. Okay, so back to this. Oh, so the reason I brought it up was there's your arrays. This is a sample where they're getting 10, they're initializing an array with 10, but maybe there aren't 10 scores. Maybe there's only 5 scores or 7 scores, whatever the case may be. That's fine, but you can hold up to 10 of them. So what I'm saying is, for your example, and here they use 999 to quit, so they use 999 for their menu. Hey, do you want to quit? In fact, if I look at, what's their menu? Do they have a menu here? They say enter next quiz score or quit, Q-U-I-T in capital letters to quit. And as long as score does not equal quit, it's going to keep doing this. So here's kind of an example too of some code right here and this is in the book. Using part of an array. So you could do it. That's one way you can do it with a while loop. Hint, hint. You could do that. So there's a bunch of things you can do. And the reason you might want to do something like this is because you want the menu to keep displaying until you're done, right? Again, think about if I go back, this menu should keep displaying until they hit quit, number 4, or whatever, 999, or Q, or whatever you want to do. So that should just keep displaying until they do that, right? Makes sense. Because again, imagine you're doing something on a website or an application, all of a sudden you have a blank screen. And what do? You don't know what to do. You got to have something to tell the user what you should do. And again, you can make yours a lot prettier than mine. Mine's very basic. I get that. I am aesthetically challenged. I always say that. I like the nuts and bolts on the other side versus the front end. Front end, I've just never been good at. I just do the basics, or I steal from other people's ideas and designs. So hopefully this is helping. So back to that. So you're going to create some arrays for the dog, the vet, and the food costs to get that going there. Okay. And then again, you can use, there's something very similar, some things here you can use. And again, that's the whole idea behind it, is you get more experienced in this. Some of you who are more experienced already know this, but those of you who don't, it's not, you take bits and pieces out from different areas of code that you find that you're like, oh yeah, this will work, or this will work, you know, that kind of thing. That's how you solve those problems. It's rare that you find one program. Sometimes you'll find one program that will do almost all of what you need. You may. A lot of times it's just bits and pieces. So this is I like to bring this up as an example. Hopefully it helps. All right. I'm going to see how far we get on this topic, because like I said, I'm going to give you some time. We'll do, I think I have I'd like to get you through the last you do it too, right? What's the other one? Because bowling team. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe next week. That's why now I remember why we did it, because just some of that takes time. Okay. So you can create an array of objects, using arrays of objects to do things. And that's very powerful. So in this case, it shows you create an array, call it emp for employee, and it's a size of 7. So I can store 7 employees in there, right? In this case, what they're doing is they're calling some individual constructors. So they've got they're doing a final, which is a constant. Remember that. Start num is 101. They're setting up a starting salary as 15,000. Not sure that underscore is there. Looks like that's a typo. 15,000, and then they're doing a loop, and they're just going through this loop, and they're assigning in the array. So each element in the array, emps x, it's going through, and it's assigning each employee a number, start num. Now it's starting with 101, right? So start num plus x. So it's going to go what? It's going to go 101, then 102, then 103, 104, 105. So the new employee will have that, comma, and a starting salary. And they're all going to start off, I guess, at 15,000, because that doesn't change. Like that. So that's a nice way to create these arrays, this object, and create the employees array to do that. It's very nice. It's very handy, and that's very common to do that. Again, they show you this enhanced for loop. You can do something similar using the for employee and then worker emps. Again, I'm not a big fan of this. Sometimes it's much shorter, but I think it's not as descriptive. I like to look at code and see right away what it's potentially doing. We're having to sit there and really stare at it for a while. And sometimes I have to sit there and stare at it for a while. I look at this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Setting this, I'm setting this, I'm setting a for loop up, and I'm initializing the values in this emps array to these values. So I know it, right? Oh, gee, now. It's fantastic. It's good stuff, good stuff. That, all right. Okay. Stay with me. Doing good. Guess what? You can use strings too. It's very exciting. Yes, I know, right? I had to change my voice because you're all falling asleep. I know. It's a Friday night. I get it. You all want to rush out and see Terminator. I know. String. Guess what? Brackets. Not brackets. Yeah, braces. Square braces. Department names is the name of it, and then whatever you call it. Again, I pre-filled it. I've got 3 of them. So I've got accounting, human resources, and sales. It's a string. And in this case, I can loop through the same way. I refer to it the same way. So department names is there. And then in this case, I have brackets, and I'm looping through, and A is my index or my subscript, and initializing it. And it goes through. Guess what? I'm using department names.length. So it's actually using length. So length is very handy. You might want to just keep using that if you're loop through the array to do stuff. It's very handy to do that. It's kind of nice. The book has another you do it in there, going through the salaries, but I don't ask you to do it because I talk about the length already, so I'm not worried about that. And in fact, we did it. We did it in this one, so I don't ask you to do that. So anyway. The book gets into some of this in a bit more detail. About manipulating arrays of strings. Let's see if it gets into that with this. And then we're going to actually do this, you do it. And that might be the last thing we do today. Ever. No. Okay. So now we're not going to do this. Searching arrays and parallels. Okay. We're going to go back to that. So we're going to work on the bowling team. We're going to get this going. And again, so this chapter, this unit actually has a lot of stuff that potentially you can use for your project. We'll see. Because we're going to do the setters and getters, the bowling team. Again, always think about how it relates and you go from there. So let me do this. I'm going to do a file new Java. Okay. And we're going to create two programs. So one is going to be the bowling team, and we're going to create a class, and then one is the bowling team demo where you're actually going to use that Java class. So it'll be two. So we'll see how far we get. If we finish, we finish, because I'm going to make sure I give you guys time to finish. So this is just called bowling team. Public class bowling team. Open curly, close curly. Okay. So in this one, we're going to create some variables that are private to this class, and then we're going to do the getters and setters. And again, think in terms of the dog rescue, same kind of concept. So we're going to do private, and it's going to be a string. In this case, it's going to be the team name. Every team has to have a name. And then again, a private, another string. This is an array. Okay, this is an array. It's a data type of string, and there'll be members. So you're gonna have your team name and your members. This is only gonna have two objects. So the members and the team name equals new string, and they're gonna set. It's gonna be set for 4. So we're gonna keep it really simple with this. You're gonna be able to do 4. So again, think about this in terms of the dog thing. You could do that, and you could set it to say 4, say 5. Doesn't matter. It's okay as long as you have enough space for 3. All right. So now we got to do our setters and our getters, right? We've got a team name, we've got members. So you need a setter and a getter for team name, and a setter and a getter for the members. And you're like, well, wait, this is an array. Right. That's okay. It doesn't matter. All right. So we're going to do public void set team name. Okay. And what are you passing in? You're passing in something. I got to pass in, and it's going to be passing in a string. So remember, the sets are always passing data into it. And we'll just say team. Oops. So that's my set. And then what am I doing? So the team name is is my private variable up here. And if you remember this, you'll get used to it. So I'm going to use team name is equal to what? Team name is going to equal to whatever is being passed in here, and that's team. So remember, team name is the private variable in the class, and that gets set equal to whatever is being passed in there, and that's being called. So there's my team name, and then I'm going to do public string. This is my get, and my get means I'm returning something to the calling program. So I'm returning a string value, and it's going to be the team name. So and the getter is get team name. Open curly, close curly. All right. And then what am I doing? I'm returning what? I'm returning the private variable. The private variable is team name. Copy and paste, like so. Oh, I never saved it. Bowling team. I'm going to overwrite it. Yes. I can't believe I didn't save it. I thought I saved it. And we've done all this. So hopefully this is more of a review. If not, that's okay. We're doing it again. So again, private variables, string, member, and then I've got the array of members, which we haven't touched yet. So for team name, I've got my setter, and then I've got my getter. All right. Then I gotta do a method that returns a team member's name that requires a value used as a subscript. So we're gonna do this. So we're gonna do the member. So public string, and it's to be the get member. And it's gonna be cheesy, I know. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pass in a value. In this case, it's an integer value called number. And then that's how you're gonna get the number out of it. Again, we're trying to keep it really simple. And what it's going to do is it's going to return, what is it going to return? It's going to use what's the name of the array? Members. So it's going to return some data value from members, and it's using number as the index or subscript. Hopefully that makes sense. Because what you're going to do is the calling program is going to call it and it's going to say, hey, get me this member. I want to know this member name. Well, yeah, so get member 0, get member 1, get member 2, and then I can get that. And guess what? You can use a for loop. So the idea is, what's the end result? The end result is I can put in a team name and a bunch of numbers, right? I can put in Larry, Mo, Curly, Shemp, right? There's my team. It's a crazy bowling team, but it's a team. And then to get it, I can get it out, and it'll say, you know, your Three Stooges bowling team, or Four Stooges really, if you want to. And then it just spits it out, who they are, and you can use the array to do that. That's how it does it. So it looks a little cryptic hopefully right now, but that's it. So this is our bowling team .java file. That's it. Our getter and our setter, right? And we can compile it, make sure everything compiles syntactically. We can't run it because there's no main method. There's nothing to run. And again, if you remember, if I try to run this, I should get an error. No main methods. Yes, I am aware. What's that? Right now, no. Set the team, and you're gonna get the team. Oh yeah, duh. Because how do you get the members if you don't have them, right? Set team name, get team name. I jumped ahead. Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's a Friday night. You have to set the team members. I'm a knucklehead. Sorry. Public void, because I'm not returning anything, right? Set member. And what you do with the member is you have to pass in a number, so int number, and then a string, which is the name of the number. So like I said, so you'd pass in 0 and then Mo, 1 and Larry, 2 and Curly, something like that. Open curly, close curly. Yeah, using curly is talking about curly, okay? And then all you do, again, is when you set it, you've got to use the array again, right? What's the array? The array is members. And you're going to use number, which is the index or subscript. Right, I'm going to paste that. And what is that equal to? That's equal to the name that was just passed in. Thus, when you call get member, all you do is pass it a number. It uses the number, it goes to the array, it grabs it, and has the name already because it knows that 0 is this, 1 is this, 2 is this, 3 is this. Thank you. That would have been a little tough to pull up information when we didn't save any information. Now that's it. So we got our setter and getter. So set member, get member, we got the set team. Again, the only difference is with the member is you've got an array set up. You only need one team. Now you could say, well, why can't I have multiple teams? You could. I mean, and we can. You can have many teams, but we're just going to do one team with many members, like so, in this case. Okay? Fancy about it. All right. So we got to do one more. File, new. Now we're going to use it. Okay? This is It's called Bowling Team. Now, sometimes I call it Use Bowling Team, but they call it Bowling Team Demo, which is fine. So we'll just do it. But before that, I've got to import a library. So I'm going to import the java.util library. Okay. And the reason we're going to do that is because we're going to use the scanner class. To get information, we want information from the user. So public class bowling team demo. Okay. Open curly, close curly, just like that. So we got our bowling team demo. So I'm going to save it just to make sure. Bowling team demo. I'm going to overwrite my stuff, save over. And this one does have your public static void main. Spring args. Okay. Like that, like that. Okay. And really, as you know from what we've done before, it's now just a matter of creating some local variables and getting the information from the user so we can actually put it in there. And we can create our team. Our very, very exciting bowling team. We probably should have done something different, but it's what they wanted. You know, we should have done like a crocheting team or a puzzle building team or I don't know, Halo team, Fortnite team. It'd be more interesting. Yeah, I asked my students. Interesting. Okay, so now we're gonna create some local variables. Because what do we need? We need the name. What's the name gonna be? It's gonna be the bowling team name. String name. Okay, and then we're gonna actually have to create the array, right? Actually, the class. So bowling team is the class that we just created, right? So bowling team is what we just created, and we're gonna use that. So bowling team. And the instance I'm going to call it, I know they use it. I hate this. They call it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say BT. I'm not going to type out bowl team. I don't want to. So I'm going to say BT equals new. Okay, bowling team. And once I do this the first time, we're all set. I just got to remember now it's not 90. What did I do there? I did 90. I did just to do that. Okay. So BT is our bowling team. We just got to remember. Oh, int. I got to create int and x because that's going to go through our for loop. And then a constant. Now they only want num team members. They only do 4, so they're actually creating a constant. Num team members, and they're setting it equal to 4. So they only want 4, which is fine. You can do whatever. You don't have to do that, but they're doing it. And we got to set up our scanner object so we can get input from the user, right? And again, I like input, and that's actually what they use. Equals new scanner. This one's a little different, right? System.in. Again, you can do similar stuff when you do your projects. Okay, so I've got that set up. All right, so now we need to get information from the user. And how do we do that? First, we got to tell the user what we need. So we got to do system.out.println. And you got to say enter team name. No, it won't be that way. Enter team name. Okay. Our little double caret seems to indicate. Oh, I did print line. I don't want print line. I want print. I just want print because I want the cursor to stay right there, right? So I'm just gonna do print. And then what? Name is the variable I created. Name. So I'm gonna use name is what I'm capturing. Name is what I'm gonna get. And it's just input dot what? Remember how to get the string? So string is what? Next line. So now I've got the name. So what I got to do is I've got the value from the user. Now I got to save it. So BT, which I like that better. I got to do set, right? If you don't remember the actual terminology for the setter, just go back to your tab and say, where is it? Oh, set team name. There you go. Boom. Copy it because I don't remember it. And then paste it, right? And what am I passing? I'm passing the name, like so. So done. I've just stored my name. Yay. Now, what you can do is, because we're going to print a lot of this stuff out, what I'm going to do is just to make sure, let's just see if we can get this to work. So first of all, I'm going to build this. Make sure everything builds okay. It did. Okay. before I go any further, I'm going to just print out system.out.println, and I'm going to say team and colon, and I'm going to print out the team name. I want to make sure I did it right. And I'm going to use the getter right away too. So I'm going to say bt dot, and I don't remember what the getter is. What is it? Is it just get team name? Yep, that's it. It's just get the team name. Get it like so. Okay. And one more and do that. So at least we know for sure this piece works, right? Last thing you want to do is start doing all the other stuff and then you find out that you missed something. Let's run it. All right, cool. It asked me. So enter team name. So I'm going to use the Stooges. And it spit it out. It spit out Stooges. So I know at least that piece of it works. Yay. So I've got something that works. It's cool. Normally, to be honest with you, if I was working on a project like this, I would then take this and I would check it all in. I would store it and save it. What some people do, if you don't have source control, which we don't really have it, you can use it. We can use a product. I don't want to throw too much at you, like called Git or something like that. It's available free online. But what I would recommend you think about doing sometimes is, even if we're doing something as basic as this, is just make a copy of your file, the Java file. Just make a copy of it, copy and paste it. Then and you have the date of when you did it, and just do that. Then you know. So if you do something so bad you screw up your code, you can at least go back to that piece. It's a primitive way of doing it, but it's no different than copying something on your thumb drive, or even make a copy on your thumb drive. It's the same thing. At least have it at each stage when you've got it up to a certain point. You're like, you know what, this is solid. This is good. This is good stuff, man. This is good, right? Save it, put it on a thumb drive, put it on the cloud, whatever you want to do, so that if you really screw something up locally, you can always go and grab it. Just a suggestion. Save early and often, because I'm telling you, it will happen. Now we're going to just come back in and we're going to start coding more, right? I'm going to add more code, but then I might break something and screw something up and be like, you know what? Now your code might not be a lot where you can just be like, okay, it's the rest of this is all new, and then you can just delete it and restart. You can do that, but as your experience, take care. Oh, no problem. Experience dictates that as your programs become more complex and bigger, that's not always easy to do because you might be putting stuff in various places. Right now, we're only working in this one file, and even though we created a second file, you might be doing that. So just something to think about. And I'll tell you what, for sake of time, I'm not going to do all the rest of this right now. Because I promised you I'm going to give you guys time to work. Now, if you want to on your own, you can keep doing it. But I want to give you, like I said, because we don't have a lot more classes left, and I want to give you time in class to do this as well as work on the project. I'm going to give you time now to do that. We will pick this up next week, though. I will keep doing this, so you don't have to be like, oh, I got to do this now. You can if you want to, but I'll be happy to finish going through the rest of this in our next class. All right, I'll record it. Let's finish it. That's fine. I'm going to leave the team name in there. We got the team name. We printed it out. We got it anyway. That's okay. All right. I'm going to push this down. So the output for the team name should be one of the last, because that'll be team name and you'll do oh wait, I got the team name and now, so I got the team name. So now we got to get the members. So I'm going to go back up here. So now we got to get the members. Okay. And so what we're going to do is, and we're going to do this repeatedly. So the easiest way to do that is to just use a for loop again. I know how many times I'm going to do it, and I'm asking for the same information every single time. And so that's what the book has you say. For loop. So we'll do for. And you could use that x variable that we created, and we're going to set it equal to 0. Now I don't need to initialize it because I initialized it up on top. X is right there. So x equals 0. How many times do I want to do this? I want to do this. This is why they created the constant. This many times. Well, x is less than number of team members, which in that case they set it to 4. And they're saying plus plus x. Okay, and then closing that up. Oh, I don't need a semicolon there, sorry. Okay, open curly, close curly. So now I'm going to get the information from the team members from the user. Okay, so guess what? I have to, every single time, I got to print out system. Now, and again, you can play with this stuff. You don't have to do it exactly the same way. Enter team member name. Okay. Cool. Let's do that. So now I'm asking the user for the name. Guess what? I'm going to use name again. I can use it because I've already saved it, so I can keep overriding it. It doesn't matter. I can keep using the same variable. Input, it's a string, so next line. I'm just getting that value against a string. And now bt dot set member. I'm just saving the member. Now here's the only thing is, remember when the setter uses two parameters. It uses an integer, which is an index, and the string. So it's just two parameters. So in this case, the index is the x in my for loop. And then the string is what the user just typed in for name. That's it. Nice and clean. And the data changes, but the code stays the same. So it's beautiful. So I've got this set every time. So there you go. That's all it is. So I'm going to loop through this, enter team name. It's going to ask each time. Now I can get away with, I don't have to do that, but it's probably safer that way. There's, again, there's so many different ways you can do this to make it look a little nicer and more efficient. But for right now, we'll just do it this way. So it's going to enter team member, enter member, that 4 times. Okay? And I've set them already. So I got the information from the user and I've already set it. Okay? So then all you want to do is print it out. Guess what? I've already printed out the team. I checked that above. So now I got the team members. Now I want to print out the team members. I want to print out what I just did. So guess what? You're going to do another for loop. And guess what? You're going to use the x again. X equals 0 again. It's almost, in fact, it's almost identical. In fact, what you can do, and I'm not going to do it. I'll just type it again. X is less than team. It's almost identical to what we just did. Well, x is less than that. You do that, and then again you do plus plus x, like so. Now, I'm gonna do what they did. They don't have a curly brace in there because they're just doing one line. Again, I don't like to do that necessarily, but I'll just do it. And then we're gonna print out system.out.print, println, and then all you're doing is printing out the members. So you have to get the members. So if you don't remember it, so it's bt dot what is it? It's get member and then the value, the integer value. So it's bt dot get member. Left brace x and then that. Now it's going to loop through this each time, right? So it's going to print out. So we're going to have one line, and so what they want you to do is you just append a space on it, so it doesn't just keep overwriting. It'll do it. Like so. So it'll do it each time. So it'll print it, do a space, print it, do a space, print it, do a space. Again, it's not the most elegant solution. Oh, what did I miss? So BT. What did I not do? BT get member, get team. I got the team already. BT get member. Did I not do that right? So can I find symbol get member? Did I not type that right? Public string get member. What did I do? Get member. Oh, I'm not setting the array. I'm getting the values. Sorry, my fault. It's parentheses. It's not the it's the method. I'm calling the method. I'm not calling the array. I was mixing up the array. See, I make mistakes all the time too. So it's the method bt.getMember. If you look at the method getMember, its parameter is a number I'm passing. I'm not calling the array. So there you go. That was my mistake. My faux pas. Pardon me for my faux pas. Let's run it. Enter team name, Stooges. Okay, Larry, Mo, Curly, Shemp. And if it worked, it printed everything. Team is Stooges, Larry, Mo, Shirley, Kemp. Shemp. Yeah. There you go. Again, I'm not a big fan of not having curly braces in them, but for this, I'll leave them.